Well, former US President Jimmy Carter has died at the age of 100. He was the 39th Commander-in-Chief. Joining me is Sky News contributor Beau Davidson. Beau, good to see you. Thank you for joining me. What legacy does Jimmy Carter leave?
Well, first of all, he lived to be 100 years old, and he's the only president to live to be 100 years old. And I think that's a legacy in and of itself. And President-elect Trump said that we owe him a great deal of gratitude. And I think that's true because Jimmy Carter faced America's challenges with great fortitude and with faith. And I think that's to be respected. He also didn't exploit America, I think, a lot of the way that some of his modern Democrat presidents and colleagues have done. And I think that's really unfortunate. So I respect Jimmy Carter for not exploiting America the way a lot of modern Democrat presidents have done. But of course, his crowning achievement, I think, was, of course, the Carter Peace Accords, the Camp David Accords of 1978 between Israel and Egypt. That will go down incredibly in his legacy. But I also think, Danica, that his legacy will be incredibly remarked by his continued work after his presidency, which you would call a second act. And of course, I'm referring to his philanthropy and his charity, the Carter Work Project, Habitat for Humanity. I actually had the unique opportunity to work on a Habitat for Humanity house and build the home. And there's just a sense of community that comes with that I think that's really admirable. So, you know, it's not always what a president does during his presidency that determines his legacy, but what he does afterwards. And I think that Jimmy Carter's faith, his fortitude, his character, and his dignity will be remembered. So that's what Jimmy Carter will be known for, and it's a great legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are right. I mean, living to 100 is a legacy in itself. Now, let's move on because I have to ask you about Joe Biden, who is reportedly suffering from a new cognitive illness, this time in the form of regret and possible delusion. The president reportedly regrets having pulled out of this year's presidential race and believes he would have defeated Donald Trump in last month's election. Beau, how do you interpret these so-called reflections by Joe Biden?
Well, number one, I don't think he withdrew. I think he was ousted. I think he was forced out. I think it was a coup. Number two, I think that every sign pointed to him losing, perhaps even worse than Kamala. You know, after that first debate performance, his shuffling, his stumbling, his mumbling around, it was going to get worse. It did not bode well for Joe Biden to stay in the race. And that's why I say I think he potentially could have lost the race even worse than Kamala did. But it's interesting since we're talking about Jimmy Carter, because when asked what President Trump could learn from Jimmy Carter, Joe Biden said decency. And you know what? Actually, Joe Biden could learn from that too. Because there's an old saying that goes, you get out when the getting's good. And that's something Joe Biden didn't do. I think his legacy would be remembered a lot better and would be kinder to him if he got out when the getting was good. But he didn't. He selfishly stayed in. His wife, Jill, kept him in the race. He didn't need to be in the race because cognitively he couldn't do it. And so, to be honest with you, I think had he withdrawn earlier and had not even sought a second term, he would have saved himself some decency. He would have saved himself some dignity, but he didn't do that. So Jimmy Carter's legacy will be remembered for philanthropy, while I think Joe Biden's legacy will be remembered by poopy pants.